Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me and all our content wherever you look for Hawk Blogger, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the places. And, just a couple days ago, just yesterday, it was in Nashville, Tennessee, a place I had never been, and was there with a native now, a resident at least of Nashville, Matt Hasselbeck, who joins us for our weekly visit. Matt, it is good to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I've lived here 4 times. This is actually the 4th time that we've lived here. I can't hear the name Hawk Blogger anymore without thinking about my mom. We were going to your event, and my mom was like, "You're going to see the Hawk Blogger?" Like, "Oh, I want to go see the Hawk Blogger." It was great.
That's cool, probably my biggest regret of the weekend is that I didn't get to meet Hasselbeck mom. I mean, that would have been great.
MBH, Betsy Hass. She's a legend. She's a legend. She was at the game. But she couldn't hang late night the night before at your party. So although I take it back, she could have. It
was pretty tame, I would say. Like not the crazies of that it could have been, but it was great to see you and AB there.
Yeah,
and,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting like a lot of the team and a lot of the people, and it was really educated fan base kind of group, and it was neat. I'd never been to the DraftKings studio. It was good. It felt like a little pre-party for most of your people. It was the last thing I did that night, but It felt like it was like the appetizer for some of the crew.
Yeah,
Evan mostly, but Evan, for everybody.
yes. Evan, who's like battling a herniated disc and like made the trip like walking like an old man around.
It was good.
Yeah, we were up till about 2 a.m. Just talking and reflecting on how crazy it was. And honestly, not just to blow smoke, you were a topic because I was just blown away by how at ease you were in that situation with a lot of Seahawks fans who, I can't tell you how many tweets I saw from people that had their picture of you or you and AB with them at the event. And, it's this weird human thing where people like put you on a pedestal and, like how you interact that you just handle it with such grace. Is that always something you had, or is it something you learned?
I grew up, my dad played in the NFL. So I think I just saw how all those interactions went. They usually went really great. I remember just growing up going to whatever it was, a Special Olympics event with Steve Grogan or Mark Bavaro or, Boys and Girls Club with, name famous player that, you just insert. My dad played for the Patriots, the Raiders, the Vikings, and the Giants. So I just think I just saw how it should go. And it was different back then. Like, Jim Zorn and Steve Largent will talk about how they used to drive to the Kingdom and park their car and high five people that were tailgating on their way in, like it's kind of the era that my dad played in too. And just, we're in it together. Like it's our team together. And I've always just like felt it that way too, and I don't think of it any differently now. I really don't. And to have Annabelle there, like she's the biggest fan of all. I mean, she's all in on this team. From birth, really. So it's just really cool, full circle. And I don't know, it's great. It was great people. It was good.
Yeah, I love the picture of you, the proud papa, looking at AB answering questions on the show. And I mean, I'm curious, like you spent a lot of time around the team this weekend. Went to practice. Obviously, we're down there for the game. Any like new impressions you left with after kind of being around those guys?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, just take practice the day before is very different than how we did it. I'm sure they're science-based, it's data-based, not just like a feeling. When I was playing Saturdays, mock game, they call it, you go through substitutions and all the different, scenarios that you're going to practice that could come up. You didn't really break a sweat. It was like, I would say probably half the team showered after the practice, half the team didn't. I was team shower always. I would shame you if you didn't shower, but you didn't really need to. It wasn't that kind of practice. No, these guys were getting after it. I mean, everyone was sweating. Coaches were sweating. Equipment managers spotting the balls were sweating. Like it was good. And you kind of come into it like, oh, is this going to be a trap game? Is this going to be a get right game? The energy was there. It was definitely felt like it wasn't like coaches prodding on guys to try hard and take this seriously. It was very, it was very serious. Like it was like as if it was the biggest game of the year, and I appreciated that. That would be my observation from the day before anyway.
Well, and then you had a chance to watch the game, and you kind of saw how it unfolded. What were your kind of takeaways watching that game?
Well, it's an interesting thing for me because a lot of different events happened, but we ended up watching the game in a suite with John Schneider, Chuck Arnold, Steve Hutchinson, like a group like that. It was very serious. Like laptops were out. If someone went down just briefly, it was like, hold your breath. They're like, okay, what's this mean for our role? It kind of reminded me of like a do your job situation. Quarterback, you're zoned in, like I'm doing this. Head coach, you're doing this. Like you don't almost think too much about sort of the front office people and the impact that it has on them. If somebody goes down, we're making roster moves, like, hey, please get up, I hope you're okay. So it was really fascinating to just see how like it is truly one heartbeat in that organization right now. Like everybody's on the same page, everybody's together, cheering for each other, like really, encouraging. It was neat. It was a great experience. Now I know it started slow for the Seahawks. I know it wasn't probably the prettiest win. It wasn't 31-0 at halftime, but it is the NFL and you learn a lot. And I think there are things to learn from this game that are pretty positive, and then definitely some things to clean up that need to get cleaned up if you want to be kind of in that rare air with the Rams and teams like that.
We've talked before about your impressions of Mike Macdonald and how you've gotten to know him. Obviously, you knew Pete Carroll a little bit and Mike Holmgren. I don't think we talked as much about John Schneider and your interactions with him and just GMs in general. You had a few different ones, and it wasn't always harmonious between head coach and GM during your tenure. So, and the guy that you were in the booth with, Mr. Hutchinson, was part of that. So, yeah, what has your experience been with John Schneider?
Yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, when head coach and GM aren't kind of like one heartbeat, like I was talking about, one vision, one clear, consistent, game plan, it doesn't work well. You see it mostly with other teams. The Seahawks have been pretty fortunate lately. It wasn't always the case when I was there, but clearly that is the thing. I think it's a little bit of a, if you can bring humility to the table. Like, hey, I'm going to work my tail off and, we're going to work together. I'm going to be a good listener, but also just the passion. Like, I think John Schneider on a national level has a reputation of just having great drafts, especially lately. But I think that is a team effort with the team he puts together. And then also how you communicate with the coaching staff. I've used oftentimes the analogy between scouting departments and coaching staffs in the NFL, very similar to real estate agents and builders. There's sometimes a little bit of an edge, like, well, all you do is sell the house. All you do is build the house. Like it's like, but I think like the best situations are when those two groups are really harmonious. They respect each other. They listen and they work together. And I think you see it go so wrong so many times. A great example right now across the league where it's going so well is the Chicago Bears. Ryan Poles, the GM, and Ben Johnson, the head coach. Like they're in lockstep. And I think teams like that, they see how teams like maybe the Kansas City Chiefs have gotten it right, how the Seattle Seahawks have gotten it right. And I think that's how you have sustained success for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, coming into this game, there was a lot of focus on Sam Darnold, and coming off the performance he had in Los Angeles, and I think there was some varied takes on how he played in this game. Obviously, his numbers were great, led them to a win, 30 points. This is the third highest scoring team in the NFL. All those things. There were some questionable moments in terms of decisions he made. I'm kind of curious how you evaluated that game for him.
Yeah, I thought it was a clean game. I thought it was a really clean game. I think if you go back to the Rams game, I think the other thing that was kind of a storyline got kind of lost a little bit. It was just so many field goals instead of touchdowns. Like I think those two things, so the turnovers and then that. And so I just really thought there was just one play where he put the ball in harm's way. And, I think it was trying to get the ball to Barner and maybe the ball was tipped a little bit, but that was they say tips and overthrows, got to get those like that. Those are the opportunities for the defense to seize them, but inside the 5 or inside the 10, like that was dangerous. Other than that, I thought he played great. I thought it was a safe game for the most part, but then he took the shot to JSN on a third down that really changed the game. I mean, he had K9 open for the first down and he said, nope, I got JSN on a safety. I don't even care if it's perfect coverage. The perfect throw is going to beat you with the maybe the best receiver in football. And it was a game-changing play. And then he had the post to JSN against really decent coverage also in the red zone. Those are two game-changing plays. And when you talk about quarterbacks, it's not about who can play at this level. It's more like who can be the reason that we win at this level. And that's what I think he was on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there with JSN. I have to admit, in the press box, when he threw that first pass to JSN, I didn't think JSN knew where the ball was. I thought it was just going to fall harmlessly to the ground, and it was going to be one of those plays. JSN, to his point about tracking the football better than DBs, perfect spot, runs, breaks the tackle, goes to the end zone.
Yeah, and he was covered, and he had a first down open. I mean, that was the whole thing. K9, they kind of set a little pick play. I forget who set the pick, but K9 was literally wide open for the first down, and he is the read. But you can kind of go above the X's and O's if you're going to make it happen. And if I was JSN, I would have been kind of chilling, oh, well, the ball's not probably coming here. But because of the matchup, and that's the next level of a progression, because of the matchup, it's JSN on a safety, forget about it. You're getting the ball. You're giving you a chance. And he answered. It was great. It was great.
It's fascinating you bring up that mindset for a receiver in that situation because, there's a receiver last year. I mean, DK Metcalf was a guy that a number of times maybe didn't run the route because he didn't think the ball was coming his way. And there was some criticism that went that way. And now JSN's this guy that seems to do everything right, whether it's blocking in the run game, whether it's running routes full speed, regardless of whether he's first read, whether it's deep, short, middle, out, in. Have you seen it? Is there a receiver that he reminds you of when you watch him play?
That's a good question. I almost feel like it would be disrespectful to do a comp, but he does have a couple of different. I think I said to you one time, he's got a little bit of Doug Baldwin and he's got a little bit of Tyler Lockett, but he's his own thing. He's his own thing. I do think an area where this team can really improve, though, since you brought it up, there are two areas: wide receivers blocking downfield. We need more explosive runs from our running backs. Our running backs are good enough, but I think the difference from going from good to great in the running game are those explosive runs. And I'm not saying that because they've been bad, but if you look at the teams that have been exceptional around the league, say the Indianapolis Colts as an example, they went off for 244 yards one game. Go watch how those wide receivers blocked in that game. That's next level. So it's not just catching the ball, it's blocking, but I think we're doing a good job in that. Could we be a little better? Maybe. I think that's maybe something to fine tune. And then another area, I think that, even going back to when Sam put the ball in harm's way, he's a great athlete. He's a great athlete. I think sometimes as a quarterback, because in practice, you're not live, you don't necessarily practice running. And even if it's just once or twice, go ahead and, be a threat with your legs, because it's something you have. A lot of guys don't have. I think that would be, another area to kind of unlock us a little bit. Not that we need it, but offensively we'd be more dangerous.
Those are good. And flipping sides of the ball for a second, the Seahawks were credited with 42 pressures of the quarterback in this game. And it might not have felt like that because Cam Ward just kept finding his way out of a lot of those moments. But what was your impression of Cam in this game and also, the Seahawks defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, Cam's a dangerous player. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of things that scouts love, and does a lot of things that coaches it drives you nuts. It's so in a scout when he evaluates a young quarterback, he loves when he does the sidearm Mahomes throw, his feet aren't on the ground, blah blah blah. Coaches are like, oh my gosh, that's we gotta fix that. It's great that you could do that, but we need more. Do it right the first time. But he's talented. I think they had 4 sacks in the game. The Seahawks did. 3 of them were on third down. I think third down is where you can win or lose games. And so being effective on third down with your pass rushes, it felt like more blitz than normal, which would make sense with a young quarterback. I thought the defense got off to a really slow start, to be honest. I mean, they were on the field the whole first, felt like that whole first drive took basically the first quarter. But no, I mean, I think the defense is it's kind of been leading the way for this team in a lot of ways, whether that's on the field or off the field. There's just some things to clean up every week. I'll use an example. The game's kind of over. I think we have the game won, or it felt like we should have had the game won. And I think it's like down in the red zone and they score a late kind of garbage touchdown pass. Well, like day one, like what did people do down there? Like they love to run a sprint out to the right. When the back's offset to the quarterback's right, and there's a slot, meaning two receivers next to each other, it's what they love to run a sprint out to the right and a little bit of a pick play. The number one rule for DBs is like you can't be on the same level. Like you have to be at different levels or you're going to get picked off. It's just like so a couple things for me that I know will get fixed. There was absolutely no communication going on. Like no one's talking to each other defensively. There should have been at least 5 guys being like, watch the sprint out. Watch the sprint out. Another thing, it was Imanwari and I think maybe it was Josh out there. I'm not sure. But it was like communicate. You two just communicate. Like, hey, expect a pick play here. Like we can't be on the same levels. And so like, even though, I think there were some great things about the defense and like maybe some just like, that's an example of a thing you just talk to each other, just communicate and just understand what's the number one thing we should expect right here. I think that like, it's almost good that it happened, like it wasn't just like a garbage touchdown to me because it was a great teachable moment where we're going to learn from that. And now all our future opponents are now going to try that to see if we got it fixed. And I have no doubt that this coaching staff will have that fixed and they'll be ready and guys will be pointing it out. So
we're talking to Seahawks Ring of Honor member Matt Hasselbeck, and Matt, there's one player that in some ways reminds me of JSN on the other side of the ball, and that is still under the radar in some ways, and that's Devon Witherspoon. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily make these plays that show up in the box score, but he seems to make plays that help other players show up in the box score. What's your take on not JSN, but Devon Witherspoon?
Yeah, I think with Spoon, I think the mark of a great defensive player sometimes is understanding where your help is and understanding what your role is in the defense. And, I like Ray Lewis was great at that. I think I played against Ray Lewis in college and in the pros. And in college, he wasn't necessarily like this, meet you in the hole, like just going to destroy your fullback. But he was always taken on with the right leverage, always the proper shoulder, very smart player, communicated really great. And, I think Spoon does that as well. I think an area of Spoon's game that he doesn't get a lot of credit for is as a tackler. And like I think sometimes when you're a DB, you think about, it's all about the pass game. Much like wide receivers, you think it's all about catching the ball. And I just mentioned, run blocking. I think Spoon had a huge tackle in that game. I forget, it was going like left to right from where I was. But no, I just think it's that kind of stuff. It's team defense for a reason. You look at the best defenses, those guys understand where their help is, what our problem would be, what can happen on a play. And they're not just like riverboat gamblers out there doing their own thing. And yeah, it's good. I think it's a nice, it's contagious when you can count on a guy. Like I would say Leonard Williams is another guy like that, where he's not always getting the stats. He's not always getting the sacks, but stuff he does shows up for other people. And it's almost like stuff he doesn't do. Like I watched the Buffalo Bills defense. They got dudes doing swim moves and, on running plays. It's like you just hosed all the guys behind you by doing that, and so I don't know. I mean, I think I just respect it. I know teammates respect it. Coaches love it.
There was kind of a decision that I'm not sure a lot of people understand the background of, which is Gray Zabel ended up playing in this game. And I asked Mike Macdonald about this yesterday, a little bit about, you preach toughness and reliability. And one of the ways that you guys measure that is available every practice, getting out in the field. Gray Zabel wanted to play in this game. But there was probably medical folks that were like, let's be cautious. Maybe it's not the best thing. And so I asked him about like how many people like get involved. How do you handle like giving a player a chance to demonstrate the values you want for the team while also maybe protecting them from themselves? You've been involved in those situations. You talked about how you never wanted to be off the field once you'd experienced, being on and off. What are those conversations like? Are agents getting involved separate? Like how often is it like a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and how do those decisions get made?
Agents are, from my experience, agents are only involved when you're trying to get a second opinion. Okay. And, they usually just set up the second opinion. And in half the time, that's just like sending your MRI results and the copy of the report to that doctor. And that doctor is usually like buddies with your team doctor. And so they usually are like on the same page. It's very rare that they're not. But no, I think it's by position. O-line is such an identity position. It's kind of like this is who we're going to be. Like it's almost a badge of honor to play with an injury that no one else would play with. And I think we've seen that from a few guys in that room this year, even back in training camp, where it's training camp, like, hey, I appreciate that you're in full pads right now, but we're not going to practice. You're not going to go against somebody. You can be out here doing drills, but you're not going up against somebody. You got like broken fingers or something. But on a game day, it's like strap it up, tape it up. Here we go. It's all hands on deck, athletic trainers. Like we're going to come up with whatever contraption to help you get out there, whatever brace to help you get out there. Equipment managers. Hey, this is the equipment. We're going to pad you up. We're going to protect you. And I just think when you're I would say probably the leader of the offensive line, even as a young guy, if not one of the leaders, like that sends a huge message to your team. And I always felt that way. Like, hey, I'm doing this because I know that some of my teammates, they're really banged up too. And I can't like not be out there and expect you to be out there. So I'm going to be out there, and you know what my status is, and so like, hey, it's contagious again, like that. I think it's inspiring. And Gray, just speaking of him, like, man, every single person I talked to, they were like, oh, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. And like, he's like Hutch, like that was kind of like the thing that everyone liked to say. But I would just say all those guys, from Robbie Tobeck to Chris Gray, the guys I played with, they just, Walter Jones, like they were hurt. You knew it, but they found a way to be out there for the teammates.
Yeah. And, it's always admirable that what people, sacrifice potentially themselves in favor of anybody else, regardless of situation. And at the same time, you look at like Ernest Jones last week, clearly wanted to play against the Rams. That was a personal game for him. Maybe not all the way back from his knee injury. Practices full on Wednesday after the game. And I was like, sigh of relief. He made it through. And then didn't practice by Friday and didn't play in the game. And knee injuries are, they can be lingering. So,
well, it's by position too. Like, like there's certain, like use MCL as an example. The Patriots are dealing with that with their star left tackle right now, Will Campbell. It's an MCL. Well, if you were a running back, the time frame is this. If you're a left tackle, the time frame is that. And so, playing guard is different than playing linebacker. So every position has its own little timeline with injury, I would say. But no, it puts a lot of stress on the player when so many other people at your position are down, and like with Ernest, that's a situation where like Tyrese is out, with the concussion. Like there's a lot of things going on where, we're pulling up practice squad players to start that aren't even on the roster. You're counting on them to step up. Now that's the great thing, the great culture and great DNA of programs like it's like, hey, next man up. And we've developed you and we're preparing you all year so that if and when this happens, we're not caught. Like we have someone that we can coach around this, and we can baby step with you. We can get through it. So, but it puts a lot of pressure on a guy like Ernest who already wants to play. And now all of a sudden, like, man, my team needs me. And you gotta sort of protect the player from himself, and you got to think long-term. And that is like when you lean on that athletic training department and kind of, but the best guy in the building is this guy named Sam Ramsden. I don't know if you guys have known him, know who he is. You might see him on the ground on one knee when guys are hurt. He's like a Jedi. I mean, if he's got the answer, I don't even care what the question is. He's got the answer. And I think he's done a great job of helping with injury prevention. And then also just like these decisions, like when to hold somebody out. Some people rush guys with concussions back. The Seahawks have not done that. And I think that helps you in the long run in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, every team I've ever had any proximity to talks about next man up. There's been a lot of teams that the next man is up, but it's not really, there is a noticeable gap. It seems like the great teams are able to actually weather those storms and not have a huge drop off. And this is one of the first Seahawks teams I can remember in recent memory where that's the case. And it's not like it's always like this is a new player. Patrick O'Connell's been with the Seahawks for a minute, but he's playing better ball than he did before. And Drake Thomas has been with the Seahawks for a minute. He's playing better. Ty Okada, like all these guys have been around since the Pete Carroll era. So it does feel like the coaching is having an impact there.
Well, you mentioned those two guys. O'Connell, I almost called him O'Flaherty during the game. I knew it was something, but he left his feet early in that first drive, which is like, cardinal rule, don't leave your feet. It's like a negative play, but bounce back. I think he had a sack on know if it was that first drive, but like he hit a huge play in that game early. Drake is a machine, I think maybe you said it first, but he's like a TFL machine. It's great. And I think that's the whole thing, whether it's quarterback or linebacker or any other position, you're developing your backup talent while you're coaching your starters. That's what great teams do. You develop those guys by little things like calling on them in the meeting. A lot of times when you're a backup player, you don't get to talk in the meeting. You're just allowed to be in the meeting. But each position coach has their own way of doing it, where instead of just sitting there and having like a one-on-one conversation with your starter and the other guys just are sitting there proving that they're not asleep, you call on them, hey, Drake, what do you think here? O'Connell, what do you think here? Whatever. And just, that's a way of developing you do it in the quarterback room all the time. Jim Zorn was amazing with this with Seneca Wallace. He'd be like, Seneca, what do you see here? And as a young player, I don't know if you realize, the coach isn't necessarily picking on you. He's actually developing you. And I think that's what the best teams do. Not everybody does it. Absolutely not everybody does it.
So the Seahawks now 8-3, turning the page. Now Sam Darnold's going to face his former team in the Minnesota Vikings. It'll be an interesting matchup there. Know if
Careful. They're going to want him back. They'll make sure he gets back on. Where's the game? It's in Seattle? Okay.
It's in Seattle.
Don't somebody guard him when the game's over, okay? I think they would like him back.
I think you're probably right. It doesn't look like J.J. McCarthy. Well, we don't know. J.J. McCarthy has a concussion. He may or may not play in this game. I'm kind of curious, when you look at the Seahawks, Matt, that their goal is to be Super Bowl champs. They just played the Titans. They're playing a Vikings team that's struggling a little bit. They're going to play Atlanta the week after. These aren't the toughest matchups. They're all going to be hard games to win, as even the Titans game was. But if you're looking at them kind of objectively, what do you feel like would be the best things that they could do to improve? What would be the most important things that they could do between now and the next time they play the Colts and the Rams to really kind of take that next step?
So stay healthy. I mean, that's a major thing for me. And you mentioned the next two games aren't that tough. Well, it gets way tougher after that.
Mm-hmm.
They go Indy, they get the Rams again, at Carolina. Carolina's defense is good. And then at San Fran. And, we put up 13 points against San Fran week 1. So it'll get tougher. And you mentioned also that the goal is to win the Super Bowl. Sure, I think the goal is to win the Super Bowl. But I think what every team that I was on, I think the great teams, they kind of set short-term goals that help them accomplish their long-term goals, and I equate it to bowling. The great bowlers, I don't know if they necessarily look at the pins. They look at those little arrows right in front of them, kind of this one play at a time, and the score will take care of itself kind of mindset. So I think this mindset that the Seahawks have right now is to win this division. If you can win this division and accomplish that goal, then what's our next goal? Our next goal is to hoist a Lombardi. In winning this division, it's going to be just as hard as hoisting a Lombardi, ironically, this year. But no, I think a couple things offensively that I would say that I would care about: protecting the ball a little bit better, which they did this game. The turnovers thing, the teams who win it all have a great turnover ratio. They always do. And, in an area where we can really unlock our running backs, because I do think we have 2 running backs that can help us. And I do think it should be both guys helping us, is really putting an emphasis on wide receivers that are good at blocking down the field. I think that's a very, very important thing. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I think Sam using his legs a little bit, it's something the defensive coordinators stay up at night about. Oh, we could do this, we could do that. But if they've got the fear of you running it, it changes what they're willing to do. It changes their risk assessment. So I think offensively, those are a few things.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk about for a second. We talked about that part of the reason you're doing this with us this year is to benefit a charity, and we're going to talk about that one in a second. I also want to share that we have made 3 of what will be 4 donations for the My Cause, My Cleats this year, coming from this site. That this, combined with what we've done already for Ben's fund and what we're going to do with Matt's at the end of the season, brings our total to over $320,000 donated to charity over the years. And Matt, really, it's really meaningful doing this with you. It's meaningful doing it to benefit a charity. Can you share again with folks a little bit more about where you're going to be benefiting.
Yeah. So one of the great things about getting together with everybody here in Nashville for your show was I got to talk to so many people about Team Impact. And Team Impact is an organization that pairs kids with disease and disability with athletic teams at the NCAA level. And so they've partnered, it's a 2-year commitment, but they've partnered over 4,000 kids with over 100,000 athletes as teammates. Like, you win national championships together, you lose games together, you go through the fight together, early morning practices, all the stuff. They show up, usually the kid and their family. And it's just been an amazing thing. It's given these kids something that medicine could never give them. And I would say, even just as a dad of 3 NCAA athletes, I think it's been so great for the athletes to be partnered with families and children that are going through something way tougher than early morning workouts or a national championship loss. I think it's just like a great partnership. And again, there's all this money being thrown at disease and disability through medicine. I mean, this is scientifically, therapeutically proven to work. And there's no pills, there's no injections. It's not drugs. It's something more powerful. And so anyway, Team Impact, teamimpact.org. It's a great organization. And I'm really grateful that you are kind of help spread awareness and raise money. It's really cool.
Well, I'm excited to do it, and I'll be putting all the charities that we're working with this year up on the blog here in a little bit, so other people can add to it as well. So, Matt, man, thank you as always. Oh, one question I got to ask you before we go: Thanksgiving. What is your what's your go-to? Are you the cook? Are you the cook? Or are you the
No, I was always working. Thanksgiving,
okay.
Christmas were work days for us, So Mike Holmgren kind of always had the same schedule, and I think it was a Bill Walsh thing, and most coaches have the same thing. We only played on Thanksgiving one time. Don't want to talk about it. It was brutal, but it's practice in the morning. You come home and it's ready. But my brother was on Scott Van Pelt's show. He's on there every Sunday night, and he mentioned pretzel jello. I think it's called pretzel jello salad. That's like a family go-to for us. So,
wow.
Yeah, we're in LA this year. So we're going to be at like a hotel, we're going to UCLA USC game at the Coliseum. So that'll be fun. But Thanksgiving, this will be like our first one, not working, not at home. We'll see how it goes, but pretzel jello salad, I think it is.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I've never heard of that. I'm a little bit disturbed by it, but
no, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
It sounds like it could be good. It's just I
could give you all the other ones. Like, I'm a huge, all the stuffings, all the stuff. Like, there's some great food there, but this one's a unique one that's worth trying.
I love it. Well, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and good Thanksgiving to all your family as well.
Okay, you too. See you, Brian.
All right, that was Matt Hasselbeck with us every week, talking about the Seahawks. Absolute pleasure to do it. And, I wanted to share again, take a little bit more time here to talk about what we're doing charity wise. And I know that for a lot of people, it's an important part of what we do. It's certainly an important part of what we do for me. So this year, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is benefiting the JSN Family Foundation. We made our donation, or we're going to be making our donation to, this is a new foundation, benefits kids, helps them give them opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise had. I'll share a little bit more about that in the blog post. Also, Ernest Jones, Wings for Ewing sarcoma. He lost his dad to this rare form of cancer, and so he dedicated his cleats and his cause this year to that. So we're really excited to support Ernest and make that donation as well. And then AJ Barner is benefiting the Ronald Macdonald House, so we will be donating on behalf of him as well. Last one we're working on, I think we'll be able to get this done as well, is Mike McDonald's charity, which we benefited last year as well. I think he's doing the same one this year. So as far as this goes, I started this blog 2007, podcast probably 3 or 4 years later, and the goal was to kind of find a way just to connect with other people who liked the Seahawks. And once it started getting really popular during like the LOB era, it started getting a lot of reaching out from agencies and brands that wanted to do sponsorships. And I was like, nah, I work in tech. I don't really need, the money, and I don't want this to be a site that has ads popping up everywhere and is super annoying. I just want to focus on football. And probably 6 months went by before I realized I could just donate the money. I don't have to keep it. So, and it also, I happen to be working in an area where actually learning a little bit about how ads worked and who was buying them and influencer marketing. This is all pretty early in that, area. So I learned a ton by getting involved and was able to donate a bunch to charity. And then the fact that John Schneider and Tracy Schneider have a son with autism, Ben Schneider, and that they had a charity benefiting parents who have kids with autism who can't afford the treatments. That's what Ben's fund is. That just was like this perfect virtual circle, that made so much sense. It was Seahawks related. I have a son who has autism, and it was just a great chance to kind of funnel all this in one direction. And we donated 100% of our proceeds every year, for actually more than 100%, because we would donate beyond what we would make from the blog. And then just last year, when I decided to start doing this show and this job kind of more as my full-time focus, I wanted to make sure charity was still a big part of what we do. And so we spread it out last year. They didn't have a Ben's Fund auction, so I just did My Cause, My Cleats last year, which was really fun. This year, they did have a Ben's Fund auction. We did make a donation already earlier this year. We've also donated to HopeLink, as you remember, for the food banks, for folks that were not able to afford food when SNAP was not being funded. And now we're doing, these My Cause, My Cleats donations, as well as we will make a donation at the end of the season to Team Impact on behalf of Matt. So I'll get a blog post up with more information and links if other people would like to contribute. Thanksgiving to me is kind of a special week. It's probably my favorite holiday. I love the time with family. I love the food. I'm a big carb guy, for better or for worse, mostly for worse. But I make all the food, at least in our house. Long history of pretty big Thanksgivings with my mom's side of the family. And, it wasn't always copacetic. It wasn't always easy. There's a lot of family drama, but somehow that makes it real. And so I love being together, even though there's always some kind of family dynamic that's challenging. I love the food. I love the football. And I love the general notion of being grateful for what you have. And so, it seems like the right week I'm glad that My Cause, My Cleats always kind of coincides, not by accident. And so our donations will often coincide as well. So appreciate all that you guys all do to make this possible. The more people that watch, the more people that contribute, the more people that like and subscribe and leave good reviews and buy from our sponsors and all that kind of stuff. All of that helps increase the amount of money that we can donate back to charity. So, hopefully you guys take some value out of that as well, and take some pride in being part of what we're doing here, because it's certainly not just me. It's all of you. It's Dana O'Gorman, Evan Hill, Derek Gebby, Jeff Simmons, Nathan Ernst, Josh Cashman, Will Hart, who helps with the videos, the shorts, Braden Mills, who helps with those as well, and other things. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody along that list, but everybody helps make this possible, and I'm super grateful for it. So with that in mind, good time to remind folks, if you have not already, head on over to SimplySeattle.com, use code HawkBlogger15, get 15% off your favorite Seattle sports gear. And we've got something brewing with them next week that we will tell you about. That's going to be awesome. But that'll start next week. This week, use code HawkBlogger15, get your 15% off, get your Seahawks gear, get your Mariners gear, get all your gifts for the holidays at SimplySeattle.com using code HawkBlogger15. Go to JKBoots.com, one of our earliest sponsors, JKBoots.com/HawkBlogger. Put that in your browser. You'll get your own special promo code, the best boots you will ever own, and the best deal you'll get on those boots, JKBoots.com/HawkBlogger. And we've donated a bunch to charity through JK Boots to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation, which benefits forest firefighters. who are protecting our Northwest forests. So jkboots.com/hawkblogger is the place to go there. And then if you haven't already, head on over to Sleeper. Grab the Sleeper app. It is a great place for all your fantasy football. Get all your news, hang out with your friends. You can chat with your squad on there. And now you can get $20 without making a deposit for a limited time. Plus, if you use promo code HAWKS, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay, so it was great to kind of catch up with Matt there, hear his impression. It's interesting how much he emphasized wide receivers blocking downfield. Now, I'm going to have to go back and look at that to kind of get a feel for what he's talking about. But I wanted to play some sound for you guys. And I should have had this all queued up, but I didn't. Apologies for that. I'm going to play it for you. We're going to listen to Mike Macdonald talk about a couple of things here. I don't think I can share this video with you, unfortunately, but let's listen at least to a couple things. One of the things I asked about with Mike Macdonald was, well, before we get into the specifics, was just injury situations. Asked about Julian Love, and I thought that this was an important one to kind of hear about here.
Yeah, this is to your point. This is something that we've talked about for really the length of the season, and we felt like.
Well, that's not the question I wanted him to answer. Let's
see. Yeah, those guys really don't know what to say. I mean, they're banged up. They got their respect.
So he's talking there about Ty Okada, Chaz Surratt, and who was the third guy that got injured in this game? Ty Okada, Chaz Surratt, and my gosh, who was the other guy? I'm blanking.
Respective injuries. I would say that IR is, part of the equation with those guys. Something we have to decide, and it's really going to be a function of how some of these tests come back and how they progress throughout the rest of the week. We'll see what their availability is for this Sunday, but they probably have to turn a corner to be available this week.
So George Halani, thank you guys. That was the other one. So those are the three guys that were injured in this game, and he said IR is in consideration for all of them. So that's a bit of a concern. I'd asked about Julian Love, and they don't have that marked. So I'm going to see if I can find that here. Let's see if this is the right one. And they're adamant that they want to play. Okay, this is Mike Macdonald answering about my question about injuries and how they decide. I'll let you guys kind of hear the question, and then hear Mike Macdonald's answers, and then we'll play the next one after that is going to be the question about Julian Love. Yeah, Coach. Obviously, you've talked about how important toughness and reliability is for players and the values you guys want to instill. When you got a player who might be a little bit hurt and they're adamant that they want to play, and you've got training staff that's saying maybe be a little cautious, how do you kind of balance the line of allowing them to just demonstrate the toughness and reliability, but also maybe protecting them from themselves?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's tricky. I don't think what I'm learning is, it's not like there's a, you get an image or you get a test, and then all of a sudden there's some sign that comes popping up and says yes or no. It's a matter of opinion, and there's you're operating in the gray a lot, but no pun intended. I think the way I see it is, if we've deemed it safe for them to play and they're not at added risk of putting themselves in danger of getting worse, that's kind of the line that we're looking at. I think that's our responsibility as the club to not put our guys in danger. But when they're ready and willing, it definitely makes you appreciate the effort and the toughness for sure. And there's times there's been situations where we've had to make the decision for guys that have wanted to play, because it was in their best interest, even though they wanted to give it a go. So it's a tricky situation. It really is. It's really a case by case deal, and takes a lot of trust.
I asked that because I'm honestly curious. I think it's a little bit of a black box how they make decisions on whether guys play or not just the Seahawks, but just any team. And because you couldn't see his face, he smiled as I was asking that question. I think this is probably one of the areas of becoming a coach that has been the biggest learning curve for Mike Macdonald, and I don't think that learning is done yet. I think he's still figuring out how he wants to handle these things. This is a guy who is very much for the most part, wants things to be as clear cut as possible, wants to have a kind of way to make these decisions that he can come back to and just reliably feel good about. And injuries are not black and white. And you're going to have a lot of different voices from with a lot of different motivations. Everyone wants the same thing. They want the best for the team and for the player. But you've got a coach who wants to allow players to demonstrate toughness and reliability and availability. It makes it challenging. And I know a lot of fans have kind of criticized the Seahawks for maybe they let Julian Love play or Devon Witherspoon play when they shouldn't have, and then they got hurt again, and they've been on it and get off again. Ernest Jones plays, and then he doesn't play. I don't think it's a blame. I don't think that somebody needs to have a finger pointed in their direction. I think it's a imperfect science, and they're trying to find their best path through it. I don't know that there's a right and a wrong answer here, but I think they're still looking for their kind of philosophy on this. And I think it was very clear in that answer. Mike loved that Gray Zabel wanted to play. There's no question that he loved it, and it worked out. If it hadn't worked out, I think that wouldn't have been great either. So those are harder decisions than I think people realize. And I still am kind of curious, ultimately, does Mike make that call? Does the player make that call? Does John Schneider make that call? I'm curious. I honestly am how that goes at the end of the day, and we'll see. Let's see if I'm right. I think this is where I asked about Julian Love and Eric Saubert. And then are you expecting Julian Love and Eric Saubert to practice this week?
Yeah, we're still working through Julian's situation, and same thing with Eric. So we'll see on Wednesday what the plan is. Right now, we don't really have a clear enough plan to report.
Not great. That's not great. I mean, I think if they were expecting them to play this week, I think they'd know by now that they were ready to practice. You would have already had, I think, the testing that you would want to see in previous weeks. Not on the field stuff, but physical tests. They have all sorts of things that measure whether guys are back to the right strength and equality across their, if it's a hamstring, have one leg showing the same strength as it did before in the other leg and all that kind of stuff. If they don't have that yet, I don't think it's likely that Julian Love or Eric Saubert will be back this week. Now, hopefully I'm wrong, but I would kind of go in that direction to expect that. Now, if that's the case, and we already just heard that Ty Okada, at least IR is in the conversation for all three of the guys that were out this week, then we're talking about DeAnthony Bell and Kobe Bryant as your starting safeties, and your only backup on the roster is Nicky Manwari, who plays another position that you'd like him to stay at. And the only guy on the practice squad that's a safety is Maxon Hook, an undrafted free agent rookie. So there was a tweet this morning, or excuse me, last night, from a certain free agent safety named Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs said something along the lines of back to work. And you have to wonder if John Schneider reached out to his old safety, who, again, remember, they want great locker room guys. There's no better locker room guy than Quandre Diggs. And it would make sense. I don't think I don't think it's ideal to have to be bringing in guys to play safety this late, but a veteran safety, smart player, available as a backup for you could make some sense. And so, this is a little bit of the downstream cost of having lost Jarek Reed to the Titans through waivers. Personally, at the time, I thought there were other players that they could more afford to lose than Jarek Reed. I think they believed they could get him through to the practice squad. Didn't happen. And so they're scrambling a little bit. If it's not Quandre Diggs, I think they're going to add someone else to that safety room. But it sure does make a lot of sense that it would be Quandre Diggs. And who knows? I mean, Quandre was playing for the Titans last. The Seahawks were just in Tennessee. If Quandre is still around Tennessee, what are the chances that they had a conversation, John Schneider and Quandre, while they were down there? I think it's possible, maybe even likely. So I think you could do a lot worse than Quandre Diggs coming in and being available. And I'd certainly feel a lot more comfortable with him back there at safety than I would with a guy like, Max and Hook, who we just don't really know anything about at this point. So we'll see. Maybe Julian ends up surprising and being ready. As it stands right now, it seems like that's not going to be the case. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is if you look at the Seahawks IR situation, let me just double check that I've got the numbers right here. So the Seahawks have how many players on IR? Okay. The Seahawks have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players on IR right now. That includes AJ Finley. I don't know, and Kenny McIntosh. Those guys are gone for the season, so I don't think they've been designated to return. So let's call it 6 guys that are on IR right now. You only get 8 IR slots that are designated to return. So the Seahawks are nearing their maximum of that. That could mean that maybe some of these guys they will not bring back. Maybe like a Derek Young. I don't know. I think that would be a shame because Derek Young was a pretty positive part of this team. But if you put these guys on, let's say it's Ty Okada and George Halani, those could be your last 2 opportunities to bring guys back on IR. You do get an additional 2 slots for the playoffs. So there's a chance you could bring back some additional guys. But I just wanted to bring that up, that the Seahawks are reaching their limit in terms of how many IR slots they can use and bring back these guys from their injuries. So that was one other thing. Also, I think this was a really good clip. Hopefully I'm getting the right moment. This is Mike Macdonald talking about Byron Murphy's game.
That was one of Byron's best games. I thought he was dominant. The play he made on 4th and short was just an incredible play. Really took on 3 defenders, set the point of attack. I thought he rushed really well. There's some times where we have to augment our communication with him and up front of what we intend to do and how we intend to work together. But he's playing at a really high level right now, and I'm happy to see it.
I think Byron Murphy continues to be a guy that maybe is not getting the recognition that his play warrants. And part of it is there's just so many good players on this team right now that are, deserving the attention and taking the attention. He just goes in there and does his job each and every week. He's a monster against the run. He's a monster, rushing the passer and being disruptive. Takes on double teams. In this case, Mike Macdonald talks about taking on triple team. This is the guy that I was so excited for them to get. And I think he's still just getting started. The smarter he gets, the more experienced he gets over his time in Seattle, I think the better, the higher his ceiling is going to go. So great to see. And that's, to use the word dominant, that's not something Coach Macdonald does very often. This was Coach talking about Ken Walker. I thought there's some interesting notes here too.
Yeah, well, I think he was decisive running the football. on his tracks and making fast decisions, which was great. He got us out of a couple tough situations. And then I felt him in the pass game. Like I was talking about earlier when Sam got, to later on his progressions, finding Ken late in the down to create a couple explosives for us, and Zach for that matter. But we got to keep doing that, find him in the pass game and keep the running game going. But he played fast. Some great plays on the sideline. Some plays on the sideline we want to play a little bit better and finish plays a little bit in a better position, but on the right track for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive game for the running backs, and I'm very excited that Ken Walker is getting the bulk of the carries. And again, that's not a shot at Zach Charbonnet. That's just I really think Ken Walker is the turbo boost that this offense can benefit from if they really unlock him. And I just want to see more of him. There was also an interesting comment about kind of the right side of the offensive line. And here's Mike Macdonald talking about those players who have clearly been a topic of conversation among fans.
Yeah, I think, look, AB's he's playing hard. He's playing hard. He's playing physical. I think the right side of our line has really developed over the course of the season. I'd include Abe in that conversation as well. Abe's coming off an injury, gaining confidence with his play, kind of getting back to his old form. I think AB is the same thing. And I'll tell you what, Olu did another really nice job yesterday. He played hard. I think he made a lot of like unsung blocks that don't really go noticed, and deserves a lot of credit for that. I felt like our targets were on point for the majority of the game, especially in the run game. And, Ola's the one running the show on that front, so he deserves credit for that.
Good stuff there. And, we'll see. I think the feedback there was measured, as it should be for Anthony Bradford. I think more positive for Olu, and also just to note that he still sees Abe Lucas as has opportunity to get better from where he was. Last thing I want to play here is just a conversation or a comment he had about Redzone performance, which, by the way, has started to slide as of the last couple of weeks. Seahawks were 1-4 in the red zone against the Rams, and then they started off 0-2, I believe, in the red zone against the Titans. Ended up getting 2 other touchdowns to help. But here's Mike Macdonald talking about that.
Yeah, well, we need to improve in both phases, offense and defense. It's the same things. It's you got to keep the ball moving forward. You can't go backwards. So when we've done that as an offense, we've scored touchdowns. You saw that with Zach's touchdown there on the left side in the second half. So that's a positive, And defensively, you got to be able to stop the run, and then when they're forced to throw it, you can't let them scramble and extend plays and throw it past the sticks. I mean, it's really the same formula. It's just you can't let them like a 4-yard play on the 10-yard line is 40% of the distance to the end zone. If you get a 4-yard play on the -40, you're looking at it's no big deal. So yards are at a premium down there.
Yeah, so to me, red zone performance, third down performance, run game, those are the things that I'm looking for over the next few weeks about, how this team can kind of take that next step. Obviously, we're going to be watching Sam Darnold, watching decision-making, taking advantage of the check downs. I thought he did a good job of that on Sunday. And, need to make that a little bit more of a common thing. I do think using his legs is another thing that, Matt talked about, I agree with as well. So those are a few of the things that show up. And, generally speaking, Seahawks 8-3. We saw the 49ers last night get to 8-4, despite Brock Purdy throwing 3 interceptions in the first half, looking terrible in doing so. And the Panthers defense was ready for that game. They gave the 49ers some problems, but the Panthers offense the interception on 1st and goal for the Panthers was just so bad. It was so bad. And, the Seahawks play both of those teams the rest of this year. I think the Panthers are going to be a little bit of a tougher opponent than people realize. I still think the Panthers, depending on what happens with the Baker Mayfield injury, don't count out the Panthers to win that division. And that could be the team that the Seahawks are playing come playoff time in Carolina, the way things are looking right now. But yeah, I was not super impressed with how the 49ers played. Their defense continues to be, much, I think, better than the talent indicates. I think Robert Saleh continues to do a really good job. But I don't know if I still don't think that the 49ers are a team that should beat the Seahawks. I don't believe that they are a team that should beat the Seahawks. Can they beat them? Yes. Is it, every game's like a probability thing, assessment, where the Seahawks beating the Titans is like a 90%, maybe higher percent probability that you're going to win that. You play it 100 times, you're going to win it 90 times. With the 49ers, I feel like the Seahawks could play the 49ers 100 times and they should beat them 70 times. I think the Seahawks are clearly better, but the 49ers are still a dangerous team, and they have managed to win game after game that they should not have won or gotten some good fortune in doing. So they're going to be in it. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be making life hard for somebody. It's not going to be an easy game against them. But I wouldn't mind being the team that gets to knock them out of the playoffs. That wouldn't be a bad thing. I also wouldn't mind just missing them entirely. That would be fine by me as well. All right, folks. With that, I will bid you adieu for this Tuesday. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you have, give the show a like, give it a subscribe, and also go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your audio, and give us a 5-star rating. Would really appreciate it. Those make my day. Always appreciate it when you guys take the time to do it. And patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up there, get ad-free audio. If you go patreon.com/hawkblogger/gift, you can give a Patreon subscription, a membership to anybody you want. And right now, an annual subscription is 10% off. So now's the time to take advantage of it through this Friday. You can get 10% off an annual sub at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Appreciate everyone who's already a supporter, and more good stuff to come. I will have Arif Hassan from the Vikings side of things with me tomorrow for Tale of the Tape. Will be first look. And then tonight we will have the Seahawks Collective with Annabelle Hasselbeck and Mike Dugar and Rob Staten. So I'll see you for that later tonight. Until then, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Take care.